Alrighty, guys. Let's get back into this. So last time, a whole bunch of stuff happened with Rina, which was very interesting, and we got a lot of information about Satoshi, who was an old member of the club, who is one of the disappearances, one of the people who was Onikakushi'd, maybe. Um, I've had this confusion about this separation between the term Onikakushi and the curse, even though the phenomena happens at the same time, so I don't know why they're separating it. Whatever, I'm sure we'll get into that eventually. Let's just continue on. I feel like one big thing I noticed last time is, it's Hojo Satoshi, right? It's the same last name as Sadako. But Keiichi didn't mention that, which is weird. Anyway, we have new music. That's cool. Weariness and a headache. Not a very nice way to start the day. You know, I can't blame you after what happened yesterday.
どうしたの？ケイチ、今朝は顔色悪いわよ。昨夜は何時に寝たの？
Probably very late, if at all. It seemed that my mom had noticed my sullen state. Yesterday, I kept on waking up in the middle of the night. Without a doubt, I felt a presence. I felt the presence of someone standing in front of my door. I told myself repeatedly that it was my imagination and forced myself to try to sleep. Except, not being able to stand it, I gathered up my courage and opened the door. Of course there wasn't anyone there. I think I did this 3 times throughout the night. Or maybe I just didn't remember doing it any more than that. Even though I was able to get to the breakfast table without incident, I still didn't feel at ease.
風邪かもしれない。なんだか食欲ないんだ。
あら、ちょっと熱あるんじゃない？どうする？学校行ける？
Skip school right after all this happens? Technically, I did go to a school, but it was mostly self-study. It wouldn't matter much if I missed a day, would it? That's interesting. I'm just thinking about this like, in terms of how, last time I was talking about how it's like Keiichi is hiding stuff from them as well, right? From Rina and Mion and everyone. So it's like he can be so mad about them hiding stuff from him and all that, But it's like, now it's like he's talking about how he's gonna skip school because all this is happening, It's like it's creating this distance between Keiichi and all of his friends at the same time as, all of this weird, like, the mystery, the curse and the murders and all of this. As all of that stuff increases in intensity for Keiichi, it's like the distance between him and his friends does as well. It's like, I guess I don't really know how to describe it. I just think it's noteworthy how it's like, the less connected he is to his friend group, the more significant his issues with this whole mystery stuff gets, I suppose. It could have been that I hadn't been feeling well for the last few days, because I really did have a cold. I think everything I just said doesn't make any sense. I'll explain it more. I'm sure there will be I'm sure when we get another example of what I'm talking about, there will be a good spot for me to talk about it. If I took some medicine and got a good day of rest, I might be able to greet everyone with a smile tomorrow. Ding dong. Startled, I looked back and forth between the entrance and the clock. It was 10 minutes later than when I usually met up with Rena. It was Rena.
レナちゃん迎えに来ちゃったけど、どうする？お休みする？
Rena was a good girl. She might be somewhat quirky, but she was certainly cute. The lunches she made were delicious, and she always looked out for me. Why should I be so scared of something like that? It wasn't Rena's fault. It was probably mine. Aw. It had to have been my cold. It just had to be.
休む。
Yeah, he doesn't want to believe, just like me, because I don't want to believe it either, right? For me, my first inclination is to immediately say, all of this stuff going on with Rena has to be supernatural, which I think, that is what I think. It's not, but you can also view it as just grasping for not wanting to believe that she would do anything like that, which is what I think, right? I don't think Rena's like crazy and like manipulating Keiichi or some insane stuff, right? So it's like impossible to not think of it as some supernatural element going on here.
ごめん。
じゃあ、母さんが断ってきてあげるわね。
Mom headed off to the door. I would have to pass by the entrance to get back to my room. I didn't have the nerve to meet with Rena, so I wrapped myself in a blanket on the sofa and closed my eyes. I was so sleep-deprived, I quickly fell into a deep slumber. Music is sad. So I guess, like, I'm gonna try and explain more what I was saying a few minutes ago. I know, I'm just talking about, like, I don't know. But, so, like, right there, for example, it's like, now Keiichi is in this situation where he wants to avoid his friends, you know, which is sad, right? But it's also, it shows that there's this turmoil in their relationship that isn't caused entirely, it's not like it's anyone's fault specifically. They're both hiding things from each other. Keiichi is hiding stuff from them, they're hiding stuff from him. And it's like, last time, it was right after he asked Rena about, if they were hiding stuff from him. He asked it in a very accusatory way, that it would make sense that it's, you know, the way he asked it was accusatory and wasn't very nice, I guess. It certainly showed that he had some kind of, problem with their behavior, you know? And that's when all the crazy supernatural stuff happened, with Rena, right? Which I'm calling supernatural stuff just because that's what it seems like. But it's almost like it's an analogy, this weird, the supernatural and murder stuff is like being an analogy for, the strife in their friend group, I suppose. Just because I think it's noteworthy about how it's Keiichi, like, starting what could have just been, like, an argument or something, and that's when all of the weird supernatural stuff happened. It's like, and now, it's just gotten even worse, where now he's avoiding them, he doesn't want to go to school, because he's scared of Rena, pretty much, right? Even if that's not what he's gonna say. He is scared of Rena. And... yeah. I just think it's going to... If my feeling about this is correct, I think it will get even worse for him now. If the strife in his relationship with all of his buddies in the club doesn't improve, I think the supernatural elements are going to get even more significant and worse for him, basically. I had only intended to lie down for a bit, but it was almost noon when I woke up. I called out to my parents, but they didn't seem to be around. On the table, I found lunch prepared and a note. Mom and Dad had apparently driven off to somewhere far away. Oh, great. Awesome. It likely had to do with Dad's work. This happened every so often, so it wasn't that unusual. They would be back for dinner, but might be a bit late. Okay, so they aren't leaving for like a week or something. On the note, it said, "The insurance card is in the cabinet. Take it and go to the hospital." There was also a well-drawn map to the hospital. That's right. I hadn't been there before, so I didn't know exactly where it was. I had a light lunch, although it really was just leftovers from the morning, and just in case, I went to the hospital. Very different music than anything we've had before, you know? Normally, I'd never be here, in the middle of a weekday. Just walking around like this had me feeling guilty. It was an odd feeling. Following my mom's map, I took a road I usually never use. After walking for a bit, the hospital's sign came into view. Erie Clinic was written rather stylishly on the sign. The clinic wasn't very big, but based on the scale of the rest of Hinamizawa, it was far too grand. There was a parking lot and even a reserved spot for buses. They must be making a mint. Have we heard that name before, Erie? Maybe we haven't. I spaced out in the air-conditioned waiting room until it was my turn to be seen.
前原さん、診察室へどうぞ。
After half-heartedly answering all of the chatty doctor's questions, he responded with the old, "It's probably a cold." They gave me a shot and 3 days' worth of medicine. I thought it was a little overboard, but if it would clear away the gloomy feeling I'd been having lately, then it was worth it. I settled the bill and took a quick trip to the washroom. As I was leaving, I overheard a conversation between some elderly people who seemed to be regulars at the clinic. You know, it's crazy, because living in the United States, going to a hospital for something like this, you would never do it, because it would cost $5 billion. Of course, I had no intention of eavesdropping. If it just wasn't for that word.
やっぱりOnikakushiかいね。
Interesting.
そうかね。まだまだ若い子だけゃ。駆け落ちかもしられへん。どこの誰とよ。季節のたびに東京もんが来ちゃったの。でっ けカメラ持った若
Talking
者
about
が
Takano.
あれと仲が良きゃったって話知られへんの？
They are indeed talking about Tomatake-san. I could feel my ears perking up.
そら知らんけど、でも普通書き落ちっても仁義あるだろう。書き置きとか辞表とか書かんかいね。
すったらんかかんから駆け落ち言うんね。わきゃ看護師さんの顔見られんようなるわ。寂しいね。
高野さんはしっかり者よ。どこへ行ってもやっていけろん。
So her name was Takano-san? That woman with Tomatake-san. And she worked at this clinic? Oyashiro-sama's shadow was following me everywhere I went. I started listening more closely, but they began talking about fishing, and it didn't seem like they were going to revisit the topic. I gave up and left. So something I like about that scene right there is... I mean, I could just be completely off base, I really don't know, but I feel like it shows that people in Hinamizawa are willing to talk about the curse and Onikakushi and all of the weird supernatural stuff surrounding the village. Just Keiichi has had this weird idea in his mind since the beginning. That everyone in the club is hiding it from him and would never tell him about it. And it's like the one time he tried to ask Rina about it in the last chapter, he asked it in this accusatory way. And it's like, I'm not saying her reaction to it when all the crazy shit happened made sense, but it wasn't really a very good faith attempt at actually talking to them about all of it, you know? Which I still feel like is something he could just do. I seriously feel like he could just talk to his friends. Like, normal. And things would be fine. Like, obviously there's this supernatural stuff going on, potentially with Rina. But I don't know. Thus, even though I was separated from the daily monotony of school, I wasn't able to escape from Oyashiro-sama's shadow. But of course, Oyashiro-sama was the guardian deity of this place, of Hinamizawa. As long as I was in Hinamizawa, I wouldn't be able to escape. Maybe it was because I was walking outside, but my appetite had suddenly returned. I might as well buy a snack with the change from the examination fee on the way home. Contemplating that, I turned onto a familiar street. At that moment, I heard a car horn abruptly honk behind me. Ooh. Was I really walking so far into the middle of the road where I'd be in car's way? I moved farther off to the side, but the horn was still honking at me. I turned around, peeved. Who would it be? Oh, okay. Uishi.
Konnichiwa.
Interesting. It was Uishi-san. He stepped out of his car, AC on full blast, and waved at me.
今日はどうしたんです？学校はお休みですか？
Why is he here? If you guys watched the last one, you know I have some thoughts about Uishi. Okay. He's here.
ちょっと体調悪かったんで、今日はお昼を買って帰ろうとしてたところです。
そりゃよかった。実は私、お昼に行こうとしてたんですよ。
You just happen to be driving in Hinamizawa? I mean, like, why would he be here? Why would he be driving around in Hinamizawa when, like, the police station they said is in Okinomiya, right? So, maybe I'm just not thinking about the geography, right? We don't really have like a layout completely, but isn't Hinamizawa pretty out here? Why is he here?
ああ、お体に触るようでしたら構いませんよ。
I was just going to lie down after going home anyway, and I didn't really have a cold.
地元の食堂だと嫌でしょう。町まで行きましょう。
Okay, but like, like he was just gonna get lunch. He's saying, I was about to just go get lunch myself, but he's driving around in Hinamizawa, and then he's like, oh yeah, there's nothing to eat for lunch here, let's go to town. I don't believe him. I do not believe him that he came to Hinamizawa And then he's like, oh no, I'm here for lunch, but we can't eat lunch in Hinamizawa, so we gotta leave. Like,
ちょっと走りますがよろしいですかな。私、おいしいお店知ってるんですよ。
I've finally begun to understand Oishi-san's roundabout way of saying things. He probably wanted to talk to me about stuff that would be difficult to discuss while in Hinamizawa. Okay. I went with Orishi-san, riding in his frigid car. It was almost as if the bright sunlight outside was a lie.
ゆうべは遅くまですみませんでしたね。ご家族に送られませんでしたか。
いえ。
I recalled Rena, who had been listening to the phone conversation all that time, separated from me by just a door. You know, I gotta make sure I have enough, I don't want to run out of space on my recording drive in the middle of this. Let me delete stuff. I just thought of that. There we go. Okay. Even now, in the brightness of the sunlight, the thought still creeped me out. With a big bump that jolted the car, the road connecting to the city changed from dirt to pavement. My head swiveled back with a sudden realization. That's right. This was where Tomitake-san died, right? Yeah.
富武さんの捜査は暗礁に乗り上げています。
Were they ever not already on a snag? Orishi-san spoke while peering at me from the corner of his eye.
自分の爪で喉をかき破るという異常さから
That's crazy. I do not, that's like weird, like anti-drug propaganda. Like I don't think hallucinogens would cause you to claw out your own throat, like ever.
こういう症状、それも
Yeah.
急激に引き起こす薬物はなかなかないらしいんです。もちろん検視解剖もそれを念頭に置いて十分に行ったのですが、手がかりはやはりありませんでした。
漫画なんかによくあるじゃないですか。体内に取り込まれると分解したりして、
I don't, that's,
証拠が何も残らない。
there's no way it's
そんな
that.
薬。
I don't think it's related in any way to a drug, at all.
ありますよ。演歌作詞なんでしたっけ。
I guess.
まあ、結構あります。でもですね、富武さんのような症状を引き起こす薬物には、
じゃあ警察は富武さんはたたりで死んだってそう言うんですか。
They aren't going to conclude that, but the police are, we know from that tip last time, at least, I mean, what I'm taking from it is that the police are absolutely part of this, like, corruption stuff of covering it up. I assume because it benefits the police department, making them not look like stupid failures, and it benefits Hinamizawa by covering this stuff up. I couldn't help but feel that the police were worthless. Thank you, let's go, Keiichi, woo! I just wanted the idea of a curse to be disassociated from Tomitake-san's mysterious death.
悔しいですが、今のところは。ですが、死因はともかく、死ぬ前に何人かの人間に囲まれて暴行を受けたことだけは間違いありません。
Which, like last time, well not last time, a few episodes ago, I feel like I said that this rules out that his death was purely supernatural. But I guess seeing the way Rena acted in the last episode, which you could say is some kind of weird supernatural possession thing, right? I guess it doesn't, because it could just be some other extension of that type of thing, with people beating him to death, you know? So, I guess really him being surrounded by a group of people doesn't exclude a supernatural cause of death at all. I mean, obviously, him tearing at his own throat in the first place makes me feel like it has to be supernatural in some way. But originally I had thought a group of people beating him meant it couldn't be purely supernatural. But I guess we can't even say that either.
たたりでなく、人間が事件に関わっているのは疑いようがありませんよ。
Yeah, but based off Rena's behavior in the last chapter, I don't know. That made me a bit relieved. It is interesting how it's the idea that it's relieving to think it was people who did it instead of a supernatural cause. I guess because it's easier to understand. It would be easier to defend yourself and easier to, you know, you could catch the people who did it and put them in jail, you know. You can't do anything if it was a curse, you know. There would be no solution. There wouldn't be there'd be no end to it, you know. There would just be, it's the curse, it's gonna, you know, nothing we can do. We passed in front of the rather desolate, but still busier than Hinamizawa, train station. The car pulled into a restaurant parking lot, and I followed Oishi-san into the shop. It was pretty crowded, but there were only adults at this hour. Of course, there wouldn't be children in here in the middle of a weekday.
2名です。タバコは、我慢します。
こちらへどうぞ。ご注文がお決まりになりましたらお呼びください。
We were led by a peculiarly dressed waitress to our table. I sat with Oishi-san in the booth.
どうです？このお店のウェイトレスさん
Okay,
の
that's
格
great.
好。
Thanks,
か
man.
わ
まあそのどうでしょう
I
ね
don't think Keiichi's in the mood for
こ
that.
のお店ね、いっつも大人気なんですよ。お料理よりもウェイトレスさんがね。
Awesome. Thanks, man.
ああ大石さん目がやらしいですよ
うん？そうですか？
That'd be great. Regardless of how the waitresses looked, the food was decent enough. Finishing our meals while talking about some inane topic, Oishi-san's after-meal cup of coffee arrived at the table.
昨日、ひなみ沢の昔話が出ましたよね。
Mm-hmm.
ええ人食い鬼の里だって言われてたって話でしたっけ
私もあんまり詳しい方じゃないので、うちのばあ様に今朝ちょっと聞いてみたんです。
Oishi-san took out the notepad that was stuffed into his breast pocket.
なんでもですね、
Ooh.
大昔はひなみ沢は鬼が
Okay, so that not just the name of the swamp then? There was the entire village was called Onikakushi?
鬼ヶ淵すごい名前ですね
Because before they said it was just the name of the swamp.
神主の妻が受水
Yeah.
自殺した沼の名前は今でも
I wrote that
鬼ヶ
down.
淵というんです。
I'll remember that, whatever. I was gonna write down the fact that the Shinto priest who I think might have been Rika's father, I guess Rika's mother as well, who's his wife, drowned in the swamp, but I think I'll just remember that, so.
沼の底の底は鬼たちの住む国とつながってると言われてたんだそうです。
Of course, nobody had told me anything about such an ominous swamp.
でですね、鬼ヶ淵は恐れられていたと同時に崇められてもいたんだそうです。
Yeah, it's like Keiichi just still has this mindset of everyone is hiding stuff from him, and they all, it's like, oh, of course, nobody had told me anything about it. But it's like, you haven't asked about it. I don't know, like, maybe that's a weird thing to say, but it's like, you haven't even tried just talking to them about it. That just hasn't even been a thing you've attempted. A respect born of fear. I guess you could say it was a kind of deification. A village of inhuman
鬼
creatures.
たちはある種の仙人でもあったらしいんですよ。
Hmm.
例えば、不治の病にかかった村人を鬼ヶ淵に運んで治してもらったりとかしたんだそうです。
Okay. Even if we were calling them demons, Tengu, long-nosed goblins, or Senin would be a more apt description. Don't know what he's talking about.
鬼って言ってもそんなに悪い人たちじゃないみたいですね
でもそこはやっぱり人食い鬼らしいんです。
They would cure you of incurable diseases, but they were man-eaters? Okay.
ばあ様に聞いた昔話ではですね、息子を治療してもらった代償として連れ
Hmm.
てきた母親を食わせろ
Okay.
こうなるらしいんですよ。
Interesting. Hmm. I feel like I could really think about some stuff and potentially draw some connections between that and some other things that have happened in Hinamizawa. Maybe I'll think about it some other time, though. I just have like some vague thoughts about it, but maybe I'll talk about it if there's more that comes up.
息子を治療してもらった対価が自分ですかそれは怖いな
もちろん母親は息子を連れて逃げます。これをですね、鬼ヶ淵に住む村人、鬼たちがですね、全員で追いかけて取り囲んで捕まえたんだそうです。
Oops. The entire village, apparently. That's quite a frightening thing to imagine.
結局、母親も息子も捕まって食べられちゃったんだそうです。
Hmm.
おしまい。
その話 矛盾がありますよ。当事者の二人が食べられちゃったんですから。
Well, yeah, because it's
そ
just
の
like a
話が
fable,
残るは
right?
ずがありません。
ありゃ。
Mm-hmm.
昔話はこういうの多いですよね。
In contrast to the ghastly tale, Uishi-san laughed heartily while sipping his coffee. Like, one thing I'm just thinking about is, like, them talking about, or Uishi talking about how people would come to Onikakushi, now Hinamizawa, with incurable illnesses, right? And the demons would eat them, or demand payment, you know? One thing it just made me think about, I mean, this is a tenuous connection. I really don't know if this means anything, but I was thinking about how the reason why Keiichi and his family came to Hinamizawa in the first place was his dad wanted to have, like, he thought it would be a better environment to be in for his job, right? Being a painter. Which is kind of similar to coming here to try and get an illness cured, right? You're coming to Hinamizawa for some reason that you think the area can grant you, you know? And then in this story, it's like the villagers demand payment, pretty much, you know? And then everyone ends up getting eaten and killed. Which I feel like that's a pretty tenuous connection. I really don't know if that's intended. But I just think that is something interesting to think about. In contrast to the ghastly tale, Uishi-san laughed heartily while sipping his coffee.
でもですね、他の昔話にも結構あるらしいんですよ。鬼ヶ淵の鬼たちが総出で獲物を捕まえに来るというのは。
I recalled that Mion said all the villagers united and fought against the dam construction. True. Yeah, this goes back to that the theme of everyone in the village being united and uniting against stuff and all of that. Which is interesting, I guess. I saw similarities with how that part about unification overlapped. And I guess, like, you could say, so we have this theme of unification in the village, right? Which I don't really know where it's going. I feel like I don't really know what it's trying to say yet. Yeah, it's just been mentioned a bunch of times, and I don't really know what it is in relation to, in terms of anything that's actually happened in the story. One thing I think about, though, is like how the club, right? The club that Keiichi's part of is similar in a way. They were united together in this club, right? They formed a group together. And it's like Keiichi, and I don't want to blame Keiichi, but Keiichi has kind of been a source now of turmoil and strife within the club, kind of breaking up the unification, you know? Like, it's not really him entirely, but if he pretended everything was fine and nothing weird was going on and never asked Ren or me on anything, their club would stay together and united just fine, I think, right? I don't think they would ever do anything to him. Like, sure, Rena was creepy and weird in the last episode. Well, I guess the problem, well, more than that now is he's doing all this stuff with Oishi as well. Lying to them about all of that. But I guess it's just, to me, it just, like, there's the unification of the village, there's the unification of their club, and kind of the source of all of the conflict so far has been the unification of their friend group, turmoil and strife being caused in it through Keiichi lying a lot, and them kind of lying, kind of just not being completely up. I mean, I really don't think they've done anything crazy. Keiichi has this victim complex where he feels like everyone in the group has been, like, lying to him constantly and won't tell him anything, but he hasn't tried asking them. So, like, outside of, like, when he asked Rina about the murder, and she said she didn't know. Okay, but now that I'm thinking about it, there is the stuff with Satoshi as well that no one told him about, and Rina did lie about that as well, to be fair. But again, I feel like Keiichi not telling them about, like, Tomitake, even though obviously they already know, but him not telling them about Tomitake to me is so much more significant than them lying about anything like that. Anyway, I guess I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I just feel like this theme of unification, I can see how it could connect further in the future, to their club as well.
鬼たちの獲物は常に一人で、しかも前もって決められているらしいんです。
That caught my attention. Uishi-san also appeared to be pondering what it meant.
ばあ様が言うにはですね、 鬼の狩りの時には絶対に邪魔をしてはいけない。家に閉じこもって布団をかぶってろって言うんです。
つまりどういうことですか？
獲物の人を助けたりかくまったりしてはいけないんだそうです。鬼の狩りを邪魔しない限り村人には危害を加えない。そういうルールなんだそうです。
Basically, don't help the victims. Pretend you didn't see the atrocities. In other
ル
words,
ールを破ったらどうなるんです？
さあ、何しろ人食い鬼ですからね。
many parts of that tale caught my attention. Parts of the story he told me overlapped with his theory that the entire village was in on the crime, yeah. Even if it wasn't the whole village, it was conceivable that the villagers were hiding under the covers and leaving them to die, when there's a group that was on their hunt, wasn't it? I didn't dare speak it.
じゃあ大石さんはやっぱり村ぐるみもしくは村人数人の犯行だと見てるんですね。
前原さんはどう思います？
Because, like, what this is trying to make me think is, like, you know... I don't know, I'll just keep going. I'm not gonna go on another long spiel.
ああ、すみません。コーヒーのおかわりいいですか？
That's what I wanted to know. It seemed that we were both waiting for the other to say that last part. Yeah. He waited for the waitress to finish pouring coffee before speaking.
去年、サトシ君が失踪した頃から私は不審に感じていたんです。
Oishi-san muttered as he watched the milk swirl around in his
それ
coffee.
で、サトシさんのお友達。
Okay,
つまり、
oh god, this makes me so
前原
mad.
さんのお友達グループの皆さんをちょっぴりだけ。
Because this makes me so mad. Because Oishi, in the last chapter, was acting like he had no idea. Well, oh my god, he was acting like he had no idea that the Onikakshis and the curse were connected in any way, and that they always happened together. But like now he's acting like, oh, last year I was thinking about it. I don't understand. Is he just like trolling Keiichi? Like, I just don't understand what is going on here. It doesn't make any sense. There's no way someone who'd been studying these crimes for years or whatever would have no idea that the Onikakshis and the curse were connected every year. And now the way he's talking about it, it just sounds like he has always thought like this. I don't know. Am I just crazy?
本当にちょっぴりだけですよ。調べさせてもらったんです。
If Oishi-san had said this to me before, I would have gotten angry at him for calling my friends into question. But as I was now, I
と
couldn't.
てもつまらない話になります。前原さんがつまらないと感じたらいつでもおっしゃってください。終わりにしますので。
Oishi-san was wearing the most serious expression that I'd ever seen from him. It was as if he was telling me to prepare myself and listen. There were quite a few things I regretted hearing from Oishi-san, but none of them were as threatening as this. A little voice inside me was screaming like an alarm. Stop, Keiichi. This was probably the last one. I took a deep breath and silenced that voice. I would not run from the truth.
お願いします。
That was all I could utter. Oishi-san stared into my eyes silently for a few moments. After he was certain I was ready, he began.
1年目の事件の被害者は現場の監督さんだったんですが、事件の数週間前に園崎美音さんと取っ組み合いをしてるんですよ。
But Mion was like, I don't know how old, she's like 11 or something. I mean, she was really young when that happened, right? Like, so there was no way that she just like murdered someone. That would just be crazy.
何度か。
Sure, whatever. She was a kid though. Oishi-san had said before that Mion had defied the dam project vehemently. Well, it wasn't hard to imagine how she'd be if she got worked up.
2年目の事件で誘致派の夫婦が事故に遭いましたよね。現場にはお嬢さんが一緒にいたんで
Yep,
す。
yeah.
それが北条聡子さん
Yeah.
です。
So it was her parents, yeah.
貞子って貞子？
Oishi-san's look told me that my voice was too loud. Okay, so it was her parents, which I've been assuming this whole time, because that makes sense. That makes sense with why, like, it seems like Sadako's an orphan who, like, lives with Rika. I realized it as well, and quickly quieted down.
3年目には神主夫婦が亡くなられますよね。そのお嬢さんが
Okay, yes,
古
thank
木
you.
理香さんです。
Thank you for confirming the things I had thought.
リカちゃんが？
So Rika is also an orphan. Who do they live with then?
4年目に亡くなった主婦はもう若北条聡子さんの
Yeah.
義理のおばです。
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
当時は聡子さんはご両親を事故で失っていましたので預けられていたのです。
So it's like these are just following her. I mean, like, the way this looks to me, because there's no way Sadako is like murdering people. The way this looks to me is it looks like there's some kind of supernatural effect following Sadako and killing her family.
被害者宅に
I could tell my lips were getting dry. I didn't even have the wits to keep my mouth from hanging agape. I had thought it was nothing but a bizarre incident, one that I could easily distance myself from. But clicking and clacking, it had snuck all the way to my
ち
feet.
なみに4年目に失踪した北条聡さんは聡子さんの実の兄になりま
Yeah.
す。
So, like... Oh, God. I have to think so much. Like... So... It's like everyone in this group has had serious... Everyone in the club has had serious connections to all of this, you know? But in a way where I don't think they're like the perpetrators of it. It's like they're all victims, you know? Their families were, at least. Well, I guess not Mion. Mion was just kind of vaguely part of the dismemberment killing. But like not really. I mean, all we know is she had altercations with the guy. But she was so young, there's no way she killed him or anything, right? Because supposedly they caught everyone other than the main perpetrator who disappeared. But it is all connected to them in a way.
そのちょっと待ってください。
It took everything I had to finally say that. I gulped down a glass of water and once again wiped my face with a napkin. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara, but Uishi-san was relentless. Instead of waiting for me to finish sorting out my feelings, he started speaking again. The last of the things I shouldn't have heard.
被害者たちはなぜかあなたのお友達グループ
Yeah, but like
に
not
全てつながる
not in the way of like they're the ones who have done it. That would be crazy.
偶然に決まってるじゃないですか。
前原さん静かに静かに
I mean, like, if anything, I can imagine them forming a group like this because they are all victims of it. But...
みんな見てますよ
Mion, Satoko, Rika-chan. So what if they're connected? You're telling me all of my friends? It couldn't be. It just couldn't be. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it could be. I don't think they're, like... Oh, Rina is different, isn't she? Rina isn't connected with the victims at all.
竜宮レナさんは去年まで茨城の郊外にお住まいでした、まあ確かにいずれの被害者とも直接の面識はありませんが
He said it in a roundabout way. Is he saying she's also connected?
実は調べてみたら竜宮さんは引っ越しの少し前に学校で謹慎処分を受けているんですよ
Okay.
なんでも学校中のガラスを割って回ったんだと
Went through her school building and broke all of the windows. Interesting.
レナが学校中のガラスを割った？
That same spacey Rina had... I couldn't even imagine it. I could imagine the Rina from yesterday doing it, though.
3日間の謹慎が明けた後も復学しなかったようです。その間に神経科に通院し、自律神経失調症と診断され、何週間かの間、投薬と医師によるカウンセリングを受けています。
Dysautonomia. Isn't that kind of just like a general, it's kind of just like a general diagnosis, right? Not really something specific. I wonder if it was something like a nervous breakdown. I'd heard that it happens to people who are really methodical or overly sensitive. Neither of those matched Rena's easygoing personality.
でですね、そのカウンセリングをした医師のカルテにレナさんの会話内容が記載されているんですがね、その中に出てくるんですよ。
Yet.
結構。
何がです？
I pressed forward carelessly. There couldn't be anything more for me to regret.
出てくるんですよ。お社様って単語が。
Oh god, dude. Like... The author is trying to make me think all of this is supernatural so much that it's making me just rethink everything. And it's making me think I'm being misled, that it must not be a supernatural explanation, right? Because it's thrown it in my face so much that it's all Oyashiro-sama, it's the curse, that it's all supernatural, that, you know, blah 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 blah. But it's laying it on so thick that it just makes me think there's no way it's all supernatural then. It felt like someone's stone cold hand was caressing my back. Why? Why had Rena spoken of Oyashiro-sama before she even came to Hinamizawa? Yeah, true. Actually, oh my
親
god.
白様っていう幽霊みたいなものがですね、夜な夜な自宅にやってくるって言うんですよ。枕元に立って
Jesus
自
Christ.
分を見下ろすんだって。
My mind froze. I couldn't process what I was being told. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the thing Keiichi was talking about at the beginning. I don't think I can scroll up that far. But about how he felt like he kept feeling a presence, right? I'm gonna write that down. You know what? I'm gonna write that down. That's presence in Keiichi's room. I'm just gonna write down Oyashiro sama? Because I mean that feels like too direct of a connection to me, but it's something you could easily miss, right? About how Keiichi literally was saying he kept waking up in the middle of the night feeling like there was a presence in his room. And Rena apparently experienced that same thing.
その後、しばらくしてひなみ沢に引っ越されたんです。
God.
ああ、そうそう。レナさんはよそ者なんかじゃ
He's
ない
not
ん
an
ですよ。
outsider.
住民票で分かったんですが。
Okay.
リム一家は
So they lived in Hinamizawa
ひ
and
なみ沢の
moved.
住人です。レナさんがちょうど小学校に上がるときに茨城へ引っ越されたんです。
Huh. My mind went completely blank. It was similar to the static you'd see on a Blink TV channel. So that makes me think even more. It's weird that Rena thinks she is going to be the target then. Because to me, it seems like Rena really isn't an outsider like at all compared to Keiichi, right? She really is just a resident of Hinamizawa. She didn't live here for a while, but she came back. My ears began ringing as I lost all sense of comprehension.
前原さん、大丈夫ですか？もう終わりにしましょうか。
Those words brought me back. I couldn't let it end here.
レナのことは分かりました。じゃあその最後の被害者の富武さんはどうなんですか？誰と接点があるんですか？
Irritated, I let out one final reprisal. Because it's interesting here. Keiichi is grouping up Tomitake-san with Rena and everyone, right? Because he's viewing them all as victims, just like Tomitake-san, you know?
全員ですよ。お忘れですか、前原さん。みんなで楽しくお
Okay,
祭りの
yeah,
晩を過ごしたじゃない
I'm
です
like
か。
kind of sure, but like that doesn't mean anything. Like,
何人もの警官が皆さんの楽しそうな
no,
様子を見ています。
there's just no way. Now there was nothing I could respond with. I felt silent as my brain turned to mush. There's just no way. That doesn't make any sense. That just can't be right.
そろそろ出ましょう。なあ、前原さん。お昼の薬は飲みましたか？
Completely forgotten about the medicine I'd gotten today until Oishi-san said that. Did he tell Oishi about the medicine? About going to the hospital? I got another glass of water, and we left the shop after I chugged it down. Did he ever tell Oishi-san about going to the hospital and getting medicine? Like, okay, think about this. Think about this from the author's perspective. Why would he include this line, right? Ah, Maibara-san, did you take your afternoon medicine? Why would he include this line other than to point out to us that Oishi knows about Keiichi having medicine and going to the hospital, right? If he's going to include this line, it's specifically pointing out that either one, it's misleading us in a really dumb way, where it's just like Keiichi told Oishi about it off screen and we just didn't get to see it, or two, that it's weird that Oishi knows about it, which makes a lot more sense to me. So I'm going to say, absolutely, it's very strange that Oishi knows about Keiichi having medicine, right? How does he know that? Like, God, no, there's something up with Oishi. I'm not a fan at all. It's weird, because he keeps showing that he called Keiichi right after that weird stuff with Rena happened, just coincidentally. He shows up in Hinamizawa for no reason other than just to find Keiichi. It's like he knew Keiichi wasn't at school, right? Somehow. And he knows about the medicine. So it's like he knows Keiichi went to the hospital somehow. We got in the car and returned to Hinamizawa via the rough road. But, like, why? How would he know? It's like if he's surveying Keiichi somehow. Oh, dude, I'm losing my mind. I feel like it has to be related to the reason why Oishi thinks Keiichi is gonna undergo more supernatural stuff. Because I was talking about that before, in the last couple episodes, about how it's weird that Oishi thinks Keiichi is gonna experience anything more supernatural. Because Watanagashi already happened. The murder this year already happened. The curse happened, right? And normally that's it, right? There's a murder every year on Watanagashi. That's the end of the supernatural stuff for the year, right? Until the next Watanagashi happens. So it's bizarre that Oishi has been wanting Keiichi to report anything weird and supernatural to him when, you know, from our perspective, from like a neutral perspective with the information we have, there's no reason to think Keiichi would be experiencing anything more weird and supernatural. Obviously now he has the weird stuff with Rina, right? But there's no way there's no way Oishi-san knew any of that was going to happen before, or he shouldn't have. But it's like he somehow knew that Keiichi was going to be experiencing weird shit like this after Watanagashi. And it's like now he's like surveying him, you know? I never really paid attention when I was on my bike, but did cars normally shake this much? It was almost as if the road was desperately trying to tell me something. Didn't return? That big jolt was the difference in elevation of the road when it changed from cement to dirt. I was certain that I heard Tomitake-san scream. Jesus. I sat in silence, just letting myself be shaken by the car.
お家の前まで送りましょう。今日は病気でお休みだったんですよね。長々とお話ししてしまって申し訳ありませんでした。
なんで俺に話すんですか?
I blurted out the question. Really just blurted it out. I didn't expect an answer.
私、一応確認しましたよね。お話やめましょうかって。
That's not what he means.
じゃなくて、どうして俺に接触してきたんですか?
I understood quite well that Oishi-san was investigating this string of suspicious incidents. But why was he telling me all this? I mean, because he could just say it's because Keiichi's part of the group that he thinks is connected to all of the crimes, right? I knew nothing and I couldn't help. Everything Oishi-san spoke of was news to me. First of all, what could I, having just moved here, possibly know? By chance, if there was a reason for Oishi-san to reach out to me, then it would have to be that I was part of Mion's circle of friends who looked suspicious to Oishi-san.
私ね、今年で定年なんです。定年したらばあ様の意向で引っ越しちゃう予定なんですよ。だからこそ在職中にこの事件だけははっきりさせておきたかったんです。
Okay.
で、大石さんは疑ってるんですよね。
Obviously. In some way, at least. Oishi-san didn't really give me a response. It felt a little late, but I thought it was his way of showing a bit of consideration for my
こ
feelings.
れはこの道30年の勘です。
It's just interesting how, like, Oishi not being forthright with him, he views it in this nice way about how it's him showing consideration. But with his friends, with Mion and Rina and everyone, he views it in this really negative way of them hiding stuff from him, maliciously, you know?
前原さん、危ないのはあなたなんですよ。
I wanted to reply with "That's absurd," but in my downtrodden state, I couldn't bring myself to say it.
私は今年で定年ですから、来年の綿流しの日にはもういません。だから今年中に決着をつけたいのです。
In other words, he was insinuating that on the next Watanagashi, I might be the victim.
所長からも注意を受けています。
Which makes sense, sure, but that's a year from now.
一連の事件は個々に解決しているから蒸し返すなという、これは一種の圧力です。
I just don't know if I buy it.
圧力って何のですか?
I just don't know if I buy it that Oishi is like this just good willing person that's just trying to solve these crimes right before he retires and blah 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 blah. It seems much more strange to me than that.
ひなみ沢の誰かです。着きました。
Someone in
こ
Hinamizawa.
の辺でいいですか?
Not gonna expand on that anymore? Okay. After some time, the car finally reached the path to my house. I'm gonna write that down. Pressuring. Oishi. The clock read 2 p.m. I just dropped my pen. Oh. I was surprised so little time had passed since we ate. It was hot outside the car. The chirping of the Higurashi hurt my ears. This thing about heat again.
すべて忘れてくださっても結構です。ですが、私は捜査を続けますよ。お社様のたたりは今年で終わらせます。
何かあったら連絡しろってことですか？
いいんですよ。前原さんがどうしても連絡したくなった時だけでいいんです。
I wasn't collected enough to understand Oishi-san's roundabout way of saying it.
ゆっくり休んでください。病気でお休みの時に良くない話ばかりして申し訳ありませんでしたね。
I don't know. I'm just thinking about so much stuff. I didn't really give any sort of response.
私はいつでもあなたの味方です。それだけは信じといてくださいよ。それじゃ。
I'll always be on your side. If anything, believe that. That is such an ominous thing to say. That makes me think he is not on Keiichi's side at all. I'll always be on your side. If anything, believe that. I don't know. The tires crunched over the dirt road as the car made a U-turn and disappeared into a cloud of kicked-up dust. It felt like I was watching a boat only throw me a lifesaver in shark-infested waters before disappearing into the distance. That was the first time I thought Oishi-san was being unfair. Telling me I was going to be the next victim, then just saying to contact him if something happened. But there's no reason to think anything should happen until next Watanagashi, right? That's everything that has been set up. That is what we should be thinking, you know? Obviously, weird supernatural stuff has started happening to Keiichi otherwise, like with Rena yesterday, but there was no way Oishi should have had any idea something like that was going to happen. This wasn't a criminal investigation. He was fishing, and I was just the bait dangling off the line. Would the fish be the perpetrator? Or was it really just Oyashiro-sama's curse? See, Keiichi's viewing it in this negative way now, too, but I don't think I agree with Keiichi's framing of it. I don't think that's what's going on really either. Either way, the bait would be swallowed whole.
俺、死にたくないよ。
Shinatakunai. For some time, I could do nothing but stare at the puddle of water left behind by the AC from the car. Oh god, this stuff about the AC and the heat, there's some kind of metaphor or analogy there, but I don't understand it completely. Like before, obviously, it was related to him feeling like Hinamizawa was like rejecting him with the extreme heat, you know? But I feel like there's more to it than that. Oh, not the end. I thought that was the end of the chapter. I wonder how much time had passed since I laid down. It was getting dark outside. My body was soaked in sweat. It would probably be a good idea to change my sheets. At that moment, the phone downstairs rang. It was probably Mom. Mom was quite the worrywart. Maybe she had called many times, but I just didn't notice it.
もしもし、前原ですけど。
お、生きてた。
Oh, Mion.
もしもーし、ミオンだけど、具合はどう？
圭一のお友達ですか？圭一は休んでますけど。
Pretending to be his dad.
変わりましょうか。
え？あ、お嬢様ね。すみません。
And you know, he could talk to Mion about Rena being weird. He could talk to everyone else about it. He's just being so closed off from all of them. And that's what I mean is it's like, yeah.
バカで引っかかってやがるよ。
じゃん。
After our exchange, we both had a good laugh together. Except I was suspicious of her even as we were laughing. Was everybody really involved in the incidents? The fact that I couldn't say no saddened me.
元気そうで安心したよ。レナもすっごく心配してたよ。さとこはざまあないですわって喜んでたな。リカちゃんは病気でかわいそうですってさ。
Kawaiso desu.
チェ、みんなで勝手に大盛り上がりしてたみたいだな。
まあまあ、 でさ、ケイちゃん、お見舞いに行っちゃ都合悪いかな。
お見舞い？いいよそんな。重病人ってわけじゃないんだから。
うちのバッチャが山ほどおはぎを作ってさ、お裾分けに持ってけって言ってんだよ。だから持ってくね。
おいおい、風が移っても知らねえぞ。
お
Maybe.
じさんもレナもおバカさんだから大丈夫。
What does that mean?
じゃあね、すぐ行くから。
She hung up cheerfully. Rena's coming too? That's what it sounded like. I was still concerned about meeting Rena, but I guess if she was with Mion. I guess. Oh, they're here. Alright. I heard the doorbell 10 minutes later.
どんな感じ？ちゃんと薬飲んで寝てた？
そりゃもうしっかりとな。
元気そうでよかった。心配してたんだよ。
I believe her. I believe her.
悪かったな。明日にはもう大丈夫だよ。
Mion showed a complete lack of concern for someone who's recovering, and Rena looked like she was worried about me from the bottom of her heart. It didn't look like there was anything behind those expressions.
ちょっとお邪魔しようかと思ったけど、まだ本調子じゃないみたいだね。
そうか？
It seemed my face appeared a bit sullen.
じゃあこれ、ケイチくん、みーちゃんのおばあちゃんが作ってくれたおはぎだよ。
Rena held out the package wrapped in newspaper. There might be about 5 in here. I've never had mochi. It was quite hefty.
あ、サンキューな。ミオンのばあちゃんによろしく伝えといてくれよ。
その中にね、レナが作ったのも混じってるんだよ。ケイチくんに見つけられるかな。
That makes me a little bit worried. A little bit, you know,
これ、
I don't know.
今日の部活を欠席したケイちゃんへの宿題
I
だ。
guess it's like me being a little bit worried about that now, me feeling like that about Rena, because the way she acted in the last chapter. It's similar to the way Keiichi is feeling, right? I mean, obviously, right? But it's just like, through that scene, it's like giving the reader the same emotions as Keiichi, you know? It's like, now you just feel kind of weird and uneasy around her, even though, like, she seems to be acting perfectly normally fine, you know?
おはぎにアルファベットがついてるから、明日回答すること。
And just like Keiichi, right? It's like you want them to get along still. You want them to have, you know, we've had all these fun scenes with them in the club together. It's like you want them to just be able to have just a normal friendship and just have their club still going and everything. But now there's just this undercurrent of like of fear underlying it. That's all wrapped up in all of the weird stuff that's being hidden on both sides, you know? And that's just what Keiichi is feeling as well.
お見舞いなのか部活なのか、どっちかにしろ。
元気元気。これなら明日は大丈夫そうだね。
この騒ぎで熱がぶり返したらどうしてくれんだよ、まったく。
みーちゃん、あんまり騒いじゃ悪いよ。もう行こう。お家の人にも怒られるよ。
Both of them thought my parents were home. It was because the entranceway was a mess.
そうだね。もう行こっかね。あ、そうそうケイちゃん。
なんだよ。
お昼。何食べ
Okay.
た？
Alright, okay, alright, okay. Oh. God. Oh no. Dude, okay. Oh no. Why? Why? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? I don't understand. Like, no, I do understand, right? It's the same thing where it's more well, no, I mean oh god, dude. It's the sudden question startled me, and I went wide-eyed when I saw Mion. So it's Mion too. It's okay, but is it Mion too, or is Keiichi going crazy? Is this through? Are we looking at Mion through Keiichi's eyes? Well, no, not really, because like that wouldn't make sense unless it's just like. I. I'd never seen her like that. It was a highly unsettling visage. Like, what I'm thinking about is, like, it's obviously, this is all just more, like, it's Mion being weird and creepy here, right? And that's what it seems like. But you have to remember, this is all wrapped up in more weird stuff about Keiichi lying to them and, hiding stuff from them and not being open with them as a friend, right? Which, again, you can say that's unfair because of how they were hiding stuff, they have been hiding stuff from him about the curse and all of that. Except, kinda, like, not really. You can say they've been doing that, but I don't think it's anything like what Keiichi has been doing to them. Which I know, it might sound crazy to say that because it's them who, through Keiichi's eyes at least, they have been acting crazy and creepy, right? But Keiichi, in my eyes, has been the one who has been doing something wrong in their relationship, compared to anything that they have done wrong. Okay, so it's like this weird supernatural stuff going on. Supernatural. It seems supernatural. It's like they're being possessed, right? It's like it's an analogy for the turmoil and the problems in the relationship as friends that's being caused through all of this, you know, Keiichi hiding stuff from them hiding stuff from Keiichi. Yeah, it's like the more their friendship deteriorates and the worse their relationship as a club goes, the more this weird supernatural stuff happens, the more it's gonna ramp up, right? That's what it seems like to me. But why is she asking me about what I ate for lunch? What she said was so inane, it was almost meaningless. Not to even mention why she would possibly know that he was at lunch with Oishi-san, right? Because they were at school. There should be no way for them to know. The way she said it, it was almost like she didn't even care at all about what I ate.
表で食べたよ。
He must have suspected that I was with Oishi-san. Anyway, it felt that if I hesitated or tried to change the subject, then they'd read too deep into it, so I tried answering as quickly as possible. Except, contrary to the efforts I had made, there was a pause before they replied. Yeah, okay. Alright. But you just have to remember, God, it's tied to the deterioration of their friendship, right? Like, I don't mean that in terms of, like, the actual mechanics of whatever, like, weird supernatural stuff is going on right here is literally tied to that. I mean, from a story writing perspective, that is what it is tied to, and that's what this is, like, showing. At least that's just how I'm viewing it, I guess. The glimmer from Rena's eyes had changed at some point as well. It was now sharp, as if to make me feel the feigned ignorance behind her words even more. As if she already knew. That's how it looked to me. Well, was it good?
なんでそんなことを聞くんだよ。
Mion was speaking in an unusually low tone, almost as if she knew that I had eaten at the restaurant in town. No, I'm overthinking this. I mean, both of them should have been in school at lunchtime. They shouldn't know that he was at lunch with Oishi. Oishi shouldn't know that Keiichi had medicine and had been at the hospital. Those seem kind of connected to me. Maybe I'm crazy, but there's no way they could have known where I was. God.
誰?
Is Oishi just, like, working with them or something? But what do I mean by with them? What would he possibly be doing? Like, what would Oishi's motivation possibly be for this? If he's working with Mion and them for some bizarre reason. I mean, what would their motivation be either for any of this? Flop. The package with the mochi I was holding slipped out of my hands. I could tell the blood had drained from my face, making me go pale. Could it be the person from before, I wonder? Kana? I could feel the back of my throat going dry. This was no longer a bluff. They knew everything?
なんでそんなことわかるんだよ。
It took everything I had to finally force those words from my throat. My knees were shaking. Because it's so weird. It's like they still talk using their normal speech patterns. You know, Mion calling herself Oji-san, Rena doing the, you know, kana kana. Mion sneered knowingly, and her laugh seemed to carry on forever.
何のお話をしてたの？随分と熱くなってたみたいだけど。
みんなの話はしてないよ。
Not a good answer.
ミオンともレナとも関係ない。
More lying,
聞
for
いて
one
も
thing.
ないのにレナたちの名前が出るなんてなんだか怪しいな。
Rena's unwavering gaze pierced through my eyes and peered further inside me. Because it just feels like they're testing him to just see if he's gonna lie. Because it's like, they know everything. I dug my own grave. My heart was throbbing so much, it felt like it was going to explode.
何を隠れてやろうとも、おじさんにはすべてお見通しってこと。それだけを忘れないでくれればいいかな。
I couldn't even shake my head. It took everything I had to stop my teeth from chattering. She never let her gaze break from mine, even as she tilted her head slightly.
ケイチ君、顔色悪いよ。もう横になった方がいいと思うな。
そうだね。私たちはもう帰ろう。
Okay. Bye. As if nothing had happened, they both giggled at each other and started making their way out. Alright. I hadn't moved a muscle since I had dropped the package of mochi. As they left, the door slowly closed behind them. All I could do was stare, as if I couldn't move until the door was completely closed. Just as the door was about closed, it opened again slightly with a sudden creak, sending my heart racing once again. Awesome. A single eye peered in through the narrow slit, and Mion's hawkish gaze peered at me once again.
じゃあね、ケイちゃん。
あ、
明日、学校休んじゃ嫌だよ。
Okay, better go to school tomorrow, Keiichi. Thud. The door closed. I wasn't able to move a muscle even after their low laughter died off into the distance and silence once again enveloped the room. Coming back to my senses, the first thing I did was lock the door. They knew what Oishi-san and I talked about? Why? How? No, that wasn't important. Thinking about it now, all of it could have been overheard from the beginning when Oishi-san met me. Okay, but like by who? By like there was like spies out there who were reporting back to Mion? Like, just as Mion said this, the most reasonable thing I can think of is that Oishi told her. Or someone who then told Mion. Then, what were they trying to tell me? That part was obvious. They were warning me not to say anything unnecessary. What did they deem unnecessary? I only talked with Oishi-san about one thing, and they were warning me that was unnecessary. What was it that Oishi-san talked to me about? The incidents involving Oyashiro-sama's curse that occurred every year weren't individual cases, but were connected as a whole. As well as the fact that there may be multiple perpetrators hidden within Hinamizawa. No, more precisely, that Mion, Rena, Sadako, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. Is that what they were warning me against?
何バカなこと考えてんだよ。俺。
I hit my own face hard enough that it let out a loud slap. If only that would wake me from this nightmare. But for some reason, it felt like I was punching a blanket. It was almost laughably painless. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. When did I become such a pessimist? Calm down, calm down. Settle down and sort things out. The reason Mion knew I was eating lunch with Orishi-san was probably because somebody from Hinamizawa just happened to be there at the time, and they decided to tell Mion about it? They must have told Mion that I was there. That made the most sense. Plus, come to think of it, she didn't ask me where I ate lunch, did she? She only asked, was it good? Well, yeah, because she already knew what happened. They were just curious since I was together with someone not from Hinamizawa. It's not as if they had any ulterior motives. That's it. That has to be it. Thinking about it that way, it was the same with Rena. I was just being strangely ambiguous about when I met with Orishi-san, and when Rena was just correcting me on that. That's when I was bewildered by the change in character from the usual mild-mannered Rena, and was just startled by it. That's the most natural way of thinking about it. I don't know. I don't know about that. It felt like my mind was mixed up like a tangled mess of spaghetti. Deep red marinara sauce would have poured out of my nose and ears if you just squeezed my head. Thinking that, I suddenly felt like vomiting. I really didn't want that to happen, so I stopped holding my head. Lately, I had no idea what anyone was saying. Spending time with them was fun. It didn't feel like there was any sort of hidden agenda. I really do think that they were a bunch of good people. Me too. When I just moved here, when I just moved here and couldn't make heads or tails of everything, they were really kind to me. Rina was really kind and always looked after me. As long as that strange affliction didn't rear its ugly head, she was really pretty cute. Mion is also a really good person. She didn't care about anyone's age or gender and was optimistic and outgoing. I was never bored when I was with her. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're like evil, crazy psychopaths who are manipulating him and want to kill him. That wouldn't make any sense to me. And talking of not getting bored, rambunctious Sadako was a good person for that too. She was pretty bratty, but that was just the way she interacted with others. Rika-chan was the same way. She didn't speak often, but that didn't mean she was always silent. They're my friends. But, after hearing of the better untold secrets of Hinamizawa from Uishi-san and Tomitake-san, when I was told about Oyashiro-sama's curse, things started going crazy. Then, hearing from Uishi-san that Mion, Rina, Sadako, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. After that, everyone changed. Yeah, it's like what I was saying. It's like an analogy or a metaphor for the turmoil and the distrust that is forming between them is like happening along with the supernatural stuff. It's like the supernatural stuff is a representation of that, you know? It all started getting weird after Uishi-san told me all that strange stuff. At that time, I really should have just not listened to those weird stories. I shouldn't have even asked Tomitake-san about the past incidents on the night of Onikakushi. If I just hadn't gotten that strange sense of curiosity, if I just hadn't, that's right. So that's why they, killed Tomitake-san. That impudent outsider speaking to the likes of me after everybody went out of their way to keep it a secret from me. They'd probably kill Uishi-san as well, that's what I assume, for trying to unearth what everybody was warning me was better left unburied. Besides that, he was unforgivable for spewing words that made me doubt the others. This is strange. He's really thinking some weird stuff. Of course a guy like that is going to be killed. Both Tomitake-san and Uishi-san were nothing but outsiders after all. They were entities who couldn't coexist with the people of Hinamizawa. Those guys should just fall to Uishi-sama's curse and just die. What is he doing? What is going through his mind? This is bizarre. This is really strange, right? That's not just me who thinks this. This is not normal for Keiichi. This is very strange. It wasn't their fault. It was my fault for not being able to hold back my curiosity. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It was blah 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 blah. That was very bizarre. I settled into a daze. It was a lethargic feeling like I had just gotten up, but the ominous chill that haunted me had subsided. I was fine now. I was no longer frightened. I had completely recovered. I'll go to school tomorrow, right as rain. I'll greet everyone. I'll take part in club activities. It'll definitely be fun. It had to be fun. I was one of them after all. Just like it's been forever since that night on Watanagashi when he was thinking about how he feels like one of them now, you know? Me too, and I hope it's in like a normal, I hope it's just like much tastier than the other ones or something. I remembered the homework the two brought with them when they visited me. But wow, our club did delivery. That was something else. I picked up the package I dropped on the floor and headed into the living room. It would be nice, I guess, to have some tea with it. To fill my mouth with mochi while drinking tea. Oh, this was quite a delectable situation I was in. Opening up the newspaper wrapping, there were 5 plump red bean paste mochi fit snugly inside. There were letters written from left to right on the newspaper, A, B, C, D, and E. So you have to just tell them the letter of which one was Rena's. Now then, they said Rena had made one of these. I wonder which one. There wasn't much difference in how they looked. They smelled and appeared about the same. This was a pretty difficult problem. The biggest difference was probably their shape. I wasn't sure what kind of person Mion's grandma was, but Rena's had to be different from hers, yeah. Looking carefully, I could see one mochi was made very neatly. So well that, just by staring at it, one could tell it stood out. Calm down and think even harder. Mion had said her grandma made a ton of them, and was told to give some out, if I remember correctly. So that meant 4 of these were from that large batch. And what about Rena? She probably only made 1. She probably spent quite a bit of time on it. This is why these long chapters, man, I stopped being able to read, I don't know. Meaning, the one Rena had made was this one, E. For a moment, I thought it may have been a trap Mion laid, as she knew I'd pick up on it, but that probably wasn't the case. I wouldn't be so sure if I knew Mion had made it, but since she said Rena had made it, it probably wasn't a trap. Not bad. The smooth bean paste and soft, chewy texture left little to be desired. The tea I drank afterwards also accentuated the experience. This was an exquisite piece of work. Now, how about Rena's? The creation was so delicate, one would think of a Japanese dessert. Since I normally had quite the appetite, I was slightly worried about the size of the portion. But, well, first, a bite. This was quite a difficult one to judge, actually. The ingredients were exactly the same, so there was little difference in flavor. What was different was how it was shaped at the end, so it was to be expected. So the deciding factors would be presentation and volume. The well-formed and well-sized champion versus Rena the challenger, with a size you just couldn't get enough of. I'd only had one bite of Rena. I would probably have to wait until after I was done eating to make my decision. Maybe there was something hidden inside that could cause an upset. It seems my prediction was right. My tongue touched something. It didn't feel like something edible, so I reached in with my fingers and grabbed it. Oh no. What? What was this? What is it? Before I could fully comprehend what it was, I threw away the rest of the mochi I was eating as fast as I could. It slammed against the wall, causing the bean jam to splatter. Then, after sticking for a moment, it slid down to the floor. I was dumbstruck by my own actions. What was I doing? Rena had gone out of her way to make it for me. How could I? Dumbstruck, I looked down at the hand that performed such a vile act. Then I remembered what I had taken out of my mouth. What was it? At first I thought it was a hair. Even though it was shorter than Mion's, Rena's hair was still quite long. And it wasn't this short. It was also a bit too hard to be a hair. It was thick enough to roll around on my tongue. There was a bit of a metallic sheen on one end of it. Ah yes, there was a hole for where thread goes through, like it was a sewing needle. Yes, that's right. It looked very much like a sewing needle. Is it a sewing needle? Exactly like one. The end was pointed as well, quite sharply. It really did look just like a sewing needle. Huh? What did I mean by it looked very much like a sewing needle just a bit ago? I couldn't answer, but a voice inside me already knew, and let me know by chattering my molars together. I couldn't stave off the terror welling up inside me. Suddenly, I tasted something metallic and felt a prickling pain at the back of my throat. I stuck my finger in the back of my mouth and felt around to see if I was bleeding. Suddenly, I felt the urge to vomit. The sharp taste of bile irritated the back of my throat. I clasped both hands over my mouth and, after writhing in agony, I was somehow able to hold back the nausea. I was finally able to breathe normally, but this time my heart was throbbing immensely. Then it finally registered. Exactly what was mixed in with the mochi. Before I could think of the correct word, my hands were already on the move. Oh, dude, Oh, God, man. I tossed the rest of the mochi against the wall. The geometrical patterns of the scattered bean jam on the wall suddenly invoked a terrible omen in my mind. After looking away, I dashed out to the hall and flew upstairs to my room, where I stayed under my covers until morning. I clutched my own shoulders, howling madly in a mix of fear, anger, sadness, and frustration. This wasn't a threat or warning or reminder, nothing as simple as that. Yes, like they tried to kill him. What had happened in Hinamizawa? What is happening in Hinamizawa? I mean, I don't know if swallowing a sewing needle would kill you. I guess I've never thought, it definitely could, right? It's cause internal bleeding and you die. What would happen? I didn't know the answer to any of those questions. Where did I break a taboo? Regardless, now Rena and Mion and the others, they consider me an enemy, and they thought I should just die. I won't let you kill me. Not for such a pointless reason. I fell into a restless sleep as I was crushed by my negative emotions. It was as if I was being drawn into a billowing, bottomless swamp. Shit. Oh, God. Oh, dude. I just don't know. A drug that makes you kill yourself. Right. Ah, dude, I just don't know. Because if they're trying to kill him, well, like, no, I mean, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why did they do that? Why? Oh, whoops, I accidentally hit all. I was supposed to hit new. Dude, I don't know. A drug that makes you commit suicide.
単刀直入に自殺させる薬ってないんですか？
I don't really think so.
直接的にはない。
遠回しですね。では間接的にはあるってことですか？
自殺したくなる精神状態を誘発することはできる。ちゅうことだ。
難しい言い方になりましたね。何ですかその自殺したくなる精神状態ってのは。
例えば一般的な心理学見地から言えばじゃが、心理面が内向状態から外向状態に転じるときに最も自殺が多いと言われちょる。
Clinical depression and bipolar disorder are different. Clinical depression indicates a prolonged state of depression, whereas bipolar disorder is characterized by a passive depressed state accompanied by a very active manic state.
内向状態の時は自信を喪失し非常に悲観的だ。だが自殺もせん。自殺をする気力すらないからだ。逆の状態もまた自殺をせん。今度は逆に非常に自信過剰で行動的なので自らを順風満帆と思う。だから自殺などせんのだ。
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is just a dead end to me, this whole drug thing. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but...
どっちの状態でも自殺をしないのに、状態が入れ替わるときに自殺するんですか？
Now, this thing they're talking about your condition changing, that feels like it might mean something. Like, obviously, they're talking about bipolar disorder here, but I feel like it can mean something.
内向状態には自殺願望はあるが、自殺という大仕事を遂げる気力すらもない。だが外向状態が始まると徐々に気力が充実し、体の自由が利くようになってくる。
なるほど。つまり自殺する気力が回復するわけですね。
This whole, like... I feel like you could apply this potentially to something other than bipolar disorder in the story. I'm not going to mention it yet, because it might be crazy. But if it comes up and I think it's meaningful, I'll talk about it.
そういうことじゃのう。だからこの時期に変な気を起こさんように処方箋を施すわけじゃな。
では、富武氏はこの心理状態だったんですかね。
一般的に自殺はちゃんとした文化的な手法で行われ、
yeah, no one would ever rip their own throat. So.
自虐行動とは全く違うぞい。
富武氏の自殺は文化的じゃないですよね。ではやっぱり何かの中毒と考えるのが自然ですか。最初に言った自殺したくなる精神状態を起こす薬ってのを教えてください。
鎮痛薬の一部には心理の内向か
I
ら
don't think Tomitake was on
過
meth.
剰転換させる効果があると報告されとる。それから催眠作用
Or
も
その
barbiturates.
2つは検視の報告だと違うみたいですね。他の可能性は？
あとは病気しか考えられん。甲状腺異常を引き起こす病気にしばしばそれに似た症状が報告されとる。だがそれらは概して特徴的な症状が多い。仏は違うの。
もっと突発的に発生するものはありませんかね。今回のケースと合うような突発性で自殺したくなるようなやつです。
他にはそうじゃな。
Organic mental
脳
disorders.
障害によって精神に異常を発生する状態じゃな。これは薬物中毒でも起こるが、脳の外傷や一部の病気なんかでも起こる。
つまり薬によらなくても異常な精神状態に陥る可能性があると。
仏は犯人に囲まれて命に危険が迫っとったんじゃろ。極度の緊張が続い
Maybe. I mean, that's,
そ
you
れ
know.
に分泌異常が重なってさらに打ちどころが悪くて脳に
I
障
mean,
害
I
が起
guess.
こり
Like, yeah, I mean, like, I guess I can see that. Just, that's kind of crazy.
もうちょっと省略して言ってくれませんかね。
Wish you're done.
つまり乱闘中に豆腐の角に頭ぶつけてそれで異常が発生したと言っとるんだ。
じゃあ星には殺意はなかったってことですかね。
I don't know about that.
小銭を巻き上げようと思ったらたまたま殴りどころが悪か
I
った。
think Owishi's joking as well, thankfully. Yeah, the two plump men laughed hoarsely.
なんてわけはありませんね。
いかにも薬物の常用にせよ、精神的なものにせよ、仏の身元が鍵を握っとるぞい。そっちはどうなっとるんじゃ。
Them saying the deceased background holds the key. That just makes me like, that just makes me think about stuff, I guess.
あら、こんな時間。そろそろ戻らないとクマちゃん怒っちゃいますね。
おお、頑張れよ。いいお年をの。
いいお年を。
Okay, interesting. I feel like a lot of stuff they talk there is kind of like nonsense that I don't think is true. But a lot of it also, I think, can be applied in some ways, potentially.
おや今の皆さんは確か
議員バッジが2人いたっすね。
じゃあ県議と市議の園崎だ。
Oh, yeah, okay. So, have we heard about that before? That a city councilor and a prefectural assembly members are part of the Sonozaki family? That's important information, I think. I mean, that's a lot of power for a family, isn't it?
面白いっすね。親戚同士で県議と市議やってんすか。
これがずるいんですよ。お互いの名前で事前運動バンバン。片方の選挙中にはもう片方が別に講演会を開いて二重に選挙運動やってんですよ。堂々と。
よくわかんないんすけど、それって公選法違反じゃないんすか？
No, I don't think so.
事前運動にならない限り政治活動は無制限ですからね。クマちゃん、そんなんじゃ選対本部好きになった時大変ですよ。
What does that mean?
公選法くらいは勉強してください。
俺、知能犯科は無理っす。バカですから。
There was prefectural assembly member Sonozaki and city councilor Sonozaki. Also, the mayor of Hinamizawa. So, they're all influenced by the Sonozaki family. So, is the mayor also the Sonozaki?
お見送りしてんのは副所長とうちの課長っすね。
It came to me. That night, when the department chief invited me along to get some Odin, I thought that was it.
大石さんは友達多いから聞いてるかもしれないけど、聞いてるかな。
いいえ、何も。
お母さん、ガモにはんぺん頼みます。所長のとこに議員の怒鳴り込みが
あれま、そうなんですか。あ、お母さん、私にもう一杯ください。
Prefectural assembly member Sonozaki and city councilor Sonozaki were both intimidated. Our snot-nosed career police chief couldn't handle being yelled at by them. They're like Yakuza. Okay, so this is like in relation to the whole thing with the police department, like, you know, taking part in and covering stuff up. But maybe they're just being threatened and they're not doing it for their own self-interest as well. But I feel like it does help their own self-interest too, you know, because for the police to have failed all of these years in a row with these crimes, I mean, I feel like they would also want to cover them up anyway.
ひなみ沢事件の捜査の仕方で君を指名して陳情してきたよ。
ありゃ、私？はてはて。
とぼけるなよ。例のひなみ沢の過去の事件。蒸し返してるだろ。
And I don't think they want him to do that.
私、富武殺しで手一杯でそんな余裕ないですよ。ね。
本当に？本当にそうならいいんだ
That's
けど
ominous.
さ。
There was a period of silence. While we were silent, we made headway on our food and drink.
いやー、ごちそうになっちゃいました。今月は負けっぱなしだったんで財布つらかったんですよ。助かりました。
いや、いいよ。また馬教えてよ。大井さんと同じ馬を買うから。
最近はダメです。馬の声がさっぱりですから。タクシー
Able to read the horses at all. I just can't help but read maybe too much into all of these lines. I just wonder if this is saying something about Oishi and the current investigation. You know, he hasn't been doing well. He hasn't been able to read the horses at all. I don't know. I'm going by train. The department chief is taking a taxi. I have my own car, but it'd be rash to drive it home. Can't blow it right before the retirement with a DUI. Even though he could still rattle off, it looked like his legs were already jelly. Pushing him into the cab, I gave the driver the department chief's address.
ではではまた明日。良いお年を。
大石さん、
はいはい。
過去の事件は全部個別に終わってる。縦に並べるのはやめる
God,
んだ。
yeah, it's like he's just facing pressure from inside the police department. But like, this just conflicts a lot with everything I've been saying about Oishi.
村の連中は半ば本気でタタリを信じてるんだから。
私だってタタリなんか信じちゃいませんよ。
大石さんは来年で退職じゃないですか。退職金でローン返してお母さんと北海道に引っ越すんじゃなかったっけ？
ばあ様がどうしても生まれの北海道に帰りたいって泣くんですよ。最後のご奉公なんです。退職金はまあすすきので楽しむことにしますな。
所長は退職時特別昇給を見直すかもってさ。
Special retirement salary raise. A public servant's severance payment is calculated based on their monthly salary when they retire. So, a special promotion of 2 pay grades is given before retirement. Awesome, that's great. This tops up the employee's severance payment. That tends to be how it's done around here. Of course, it's not exactly a commendable custom, yeah. Incidentally, the difference that 2 pay grades makes to the payout is quite significant.
さすがインテリの若所長は言い出すことが模範的です。
It's not even veiled.
でもまあ、私たちの給料が血税で支払われてることを思えば、まあ、時代の流れですかね。
It certainly wasn't a laughing matter, but I'll laugh through it anyway.
僕も模範的なこととは思わないよ。でもまあ、大石さんはそれだけの退職金をもらってもおかしくない活躍をしてきたからさ。僕としてはぜひもらってほしいんだよ。
もらえるもんならそりゃ欲しいですけどね。
もらえるよ。大石さん
As
が
long as you're an
大
adult
人な
about
ら。
this is so weird. This conflicts so much with everything I've been thinking about Oishi, right? Oh God, I don't know.
運転手さん、引き止めてすみませんね。お願いします。
I closed the door roughly, interrupting the department chief's conversation a bit rudely. It looked like he still had something to say, but he just smiled wryly and waved. I waved in return. The cab sped up gradually, and soon disappeared among the sea of lights. Oh. Hi, Oishi.
参ったな。ローン返済できるかな。
I don't know. I don't know what to think about Oishi. I really don't. That is interesting. Anyway, that was very long. I have a lot of stuff I have to think about. I feel like I've talked enough. I really was rambling a lot during this, but oh God, I have to think about a lot of stuff. Okay, well, maybe I'll have more stuff to say next time. I have to think. Because if I just sat here and rambled on this screen, no one would watch it. So, maybe in the next episode, I'm sure I'll have more stuff to say. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.